In the vibrant launch of Ferrari's 2023 F1 car, the SF23, it was clear that the team had stayed true to their 2022 design concept, with the car bearing a strong resemblance to last year's F1 75. With Red Bull, Ferrari and Mercedes all committing to their design choices from 2022, fans will be eager to find out who's delivered the fastest car. In this video, we'll take a deep dive into the new Ferrari car. Will the team be able to overcome their issues from last season to challenge for the championship in 2023? Watch until the end to find out. Now, Ferrari's generous launch, in which fans were treated to a real evolved F1 car, allowed keen observers to spot a slew of unusual design elements. It was especially interesting to see a vertical inlet in the lower section of the chassis, just in front of the side pods. Ferrari's technicians refer to this inlet as the bypass duct, which exits at the top of the side pods. The goal is to energize the airflow, particularly the hot stream exiting from the upper gills, so that it can be directed towards the rear of the car. The sculpted profile of the top of the side pods has remained a prominent feature of this car, as it did on the predecessor, as seen from the top. We could also see how the bypass duct's exit is divided into two sections to feed the airflow passing beneath differently. The car's center section is littered with new fins and winglets, some of which are inspired by what other teams ran last season. But there are several new additions too, indicating that Ferrari is looking for any available box region within the regulations to add flow conditioning devices. The main mirror assembly has the same DNA as its predecessor, but in order to meet the new regulations, the team has also borrowed a page from Mercedes and AlphaTauri's playbook, with a trio of winglets sprouting from the side pod's outer corner. At the front of the car, the wing has increased its downwash capability, with the flaps tapering down sharply towards the end plate. In addition, it's fascinating to see the 5 vortex generators or diverters that have been installed to increase the outwash of airflow. These elements were banned last season when Mercedes attempted to use them on their car in Austin, but a change in wording in the regulations for 2023 allowed Ferrari to use them. It's also clear that the steering rod is now at the same level as the lower front suspension wishbone. In comparison to the F1 75, this contributes to a cleaner aerodynamic area. The steering rod on the F1 75 was located between the upper and lower wishbones. Now, aside from the visible changes, the new Ferrari car also underwent an evolution under the hood to address the major issues that plagued them last year. Ferrari appeared to be off to a dream start to the 2022 regulations, with Charles Leclerc winning 2 of the first 3 races and looking like he could easily challenge Red Bull on pace. However, failures for both Leclerc and Carlos Sainz at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix kicked off a depressing spiral of reliability issues for the team. Just a few weeks later, Leclerc dropped out while leading the Spanish Grand Prix. The Monegasque had been 34 points ahead of Max Verstappen at the start of the season, but he was now 35 points back, a gap he would not close for the rest of the season. Similar reliability issues plagued Ferrari customer teams, with Zhou Guanyu in the Alfa Romeo and Kevin Magnussen in the Haas dropping out of the Baku race. According to head of power unit development, Enrico Gualtieri, Ferrari has been working throughout the off-season to correct this Achilles heel. Preparation work for the new season is usually one of the busiest times of the year, and this winter was no exception, he explained. Power units have been frozen since last year, including fluids, oil and fuel, and the only modifications allowed are those related to reliability, which was our Achilles heel last season. We focus on the internal combustion engine and the electric motors. Gualtieri believes the team were able to use their previous track experience to identify any obvious flaws in the power unit package. He went on to say, "We tried to capitalize on the experience gained on track last season and looked at all the feedback and signs of weakness from the PU components we used. We also revised our assembly procedures." Now, after a winter of speculation, the buzz surrounding Ferrari's alleged off-season progress with its 2023 Formula One car continues to grow. And it's hard not to believe it. The whispers that this Ferrari step could be real began quietly. When the SF23 made its first public appearance at Fiorano, Frédéric Vasseur and his 2 pilots made cautious remarks. But even with the usual caveats of let's see how it goes in testing, the optimism was openly discussed, and there was no shortage of upbeat chatter in private. There is speculation that Ferrari shifted its development focus to the 2023 car earlier than previously thought, making the winless streak following the summer break less of a foreshadowing than it appeared. The efforts to solve the engine reliability issue were apparently successful. So Ferrari has reclaimed the power it sacrificed in the second half of last season. And the usual winter of development, combined with a significant amount of work to address specific balance issues, a degree of aerodynamic instability and tyre management, has unlocked a significant step forward on the chassis side. Throw in the arrival of new team principal Frédéric Vasseur and a fresh perspective that is already resulting in some minor adjustments to the team's strategic processes, there is a strong sense that each of Ferrari's crippling 2022 weaknesses has been adequately addressed. With so much seemingly coming together and the goal clearly to fight for the championship, Vasseur was inevitably asked a simple question: can Ferrari win in Bahrain? It would be over-optimistic after one lap to say something like this, he said. But the feeling is great for the launch. They did a great job at the factory to prepare for another season, and now we are ready for the next one. That's an important step, but it's just the beginning. Ferrari isn't about to declare itself the world champion in the making, not with so many lessons learned from its 16-year title drought's false dawns. But is anything we're hearing true? Ferrari clearly believes it had a successful winter. This is encouraging. Sentiment, on the other hand, will not shave a few tenths off the lap time when the season begins. And as Charles Leclerc pointed out, Ferrari must still determine whether this progress is also valid in reality. At this point, it's all talk with little substance, and 3 days of testing in Bahrain will only begin to reveal the big picture. I'm sure we did a good job with the car, but I really don't know where Red Bull is at the moment or Mercedes, said Leclerc. One thing for sure is that especially after a year like last year, whether we're first in the first race doesn't mean it's finished, and that goes both ways. I'm sure we'll have a competitive car, but let's wait and see how the other teams did. There are conflicting reports on this front as well, such as Mercedes making both worrying and encouraging noises, or Red Bull casting sidelong glances at Ferrari. That's how hazy this part of the season is, and it's all the more reason for everyone to get to Bahrain and get back on track as soon as possible. One thing is certain though, Ferrari is not speaking like a team that is already on the back foot. Yes, it's cautious, and it's willing to change its position based on what it learns in Bahrain. However, it has no plans to make early upgrades to chip away at a deficit it expects to start the season with, for example. So in the end, the launch, as good as it was just that, a launch. The shakedown, as smooth as it was just a shakedown. And as consistent as it is, talk of optimism within Maranello is just talk. We'll start getting closer to the limit, but until Bahrain really, where you put a proper race tyre on, you aren't going to feel the deficiencies or the places of the car where you need to improve, Carlos Sainz pointed out. Another way to look at it is that it's easy to focus on the positives when the negatives haven't had a chance to emerge, especially since Ferrari has made a favourable impression. But as tempting as it is to extrapolate that into something more, it's only a first impression for the time being. But what are your thoughts on Ferrari's chances this season? The new team principal Frédéric Vasseur is coming in with a fresh perspective. Will he make a big difference in turning their fortunes around? Share your thoughts in the comment section down below.